教えてよ教えてよその仕組みを僕の中に誰かいるの
So, in case you didn't know, I love big kaiju monsters. Whether they're depicted in anime or in film, seeing big monsters fight each other has always provided me big joy. The many different cool looking designs, the awe and fear they inspire. But if there is one kaiju that I'm particularly drawn to and has always captivated my imagination, it has to be this one giant atomic lizard. My very first exposure to Godzilla was my kid-old self discovering for the first time, while searching for a couple of films to watch at home alongside my father, a DVD cover with a giant dinosaur foot stepping on a bunch of cars and people in the middle of a city with a big flashy title covered in my favorite color named Godzilla. Of course, this was the DVD cover for the 1998 Roland Emmerich's Godzilla, which arguably was not the best interpretation of Godzilla.
A lot of fish.
But regardless of that, what drew me in was the mystery and concept of this giant being that was created by nuclear hellfire and now has come to wreak havoc on mankind. You can imagine kid old me that loved dinosaurs being overwhelmingly excited and dying to see how the rest of the monster looked like in the film. I'll never forget looking at the back cover of the DVD and the CD itself and being frightened and excited seeing Godzilla's massive eyeball looking straight at me. It's an image that to this day still sticks with me. I'll never forget that chilling opening, accompanied by a brilliant score where the nuclear tests create Godzilla, and once time passes we get the monster's first big tease when he destroys the Japanese fishing cargo reminiscent of the event that inspired the creation of the original Japanese film. Yes, that first Hollywood attempt at adapting Godzilla wasn't the most faithful.
That's a lot of fish.
At depicting the giant monster after those incredible first minutes, but it did introduce me what will be one of my greatest pleasures in life. I've always been drawn to titan creatures, dinosaurs, and marine creatures, and so, by no surprise, I will too get to be part of the amazing cult following behind the monster who was the amalgamation of all of these things. So yeah, I had to dedicate a video to this guy right here, at least once in my channel. Like I said, one of the things that has always drawn me towards Godzilla was his origins and what he symbolized. The mythology that was built around this kaiju was fascinating to me. King of the Monsters, the second installment of this newer American interpretation of Godzilla, and the third in Legendary's Monsterverse, consisted by Godzilla 2014 and Kong Skull Island, expands on the mythology carefully planned out in these two movies prior, while also respecting and paying homage to the one established in the Godzilla franchise as a whole. The way the monsters, aka the Titans lore, is connected to many myths and legends in order to give a realistic and ancient feel to these giant creatures is very interesting and boosts the fascination for the world that has been created. Just the fact that 16 Titans and counting are teased in this movie just adds to that curiosity you have in wanting to see how they look like, which ones are the classic ones, which ones are new, and what roles will they play out in the future. That's what I really liked about Godzilla 2014. Instead of this incarnation of the classic monster have been mutated by nuclear power, instead he already was a mythical creature and embraced as a god by ancient civilizations, being portrayed as a force of nature as well, but one that brings balance and whose fate isn't tied to humanity. And the same can be said for all of the other titans that are introduced in this second installment. Nature has been tainted. The rightful king has to restore the balance. Although yeah, it's beaten around the bush a little too much, but at least the point gets across. Also, the way awe and scale the new titans, including Godzilla, portray is chilling. Every time they appeared on screen, I got goosebumps. Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Rodan, they all had their moments to shine, one of them quite literally. And the score that followed those moments of pure epicness was, oh my sweet lord! Hearing the epic remix of this original classic Toho Monsters was orgasmic. but not in a weird way. And the child in me couldn't help but geek out so goddamn much. Of course, this film has some problems that I couldn't help but notice, such as certain scenes where exposition comes out of nowhere and is not that well handled, like King Ghidorah's backstory. One of the main villains, played by the infamous one who brought to life in the small screen Tywin Lannister himself, was very much underutilized, which is why I'm glad he'll be having a bigger role in the upcoming Godzilla vs. Kong in 2020. The male protagonist of the film, played by Kyle Chandler, was also a little too hands-on on the whole situation, particularly with the way Monarch deals with Godzilla. Despite having two scientists from the previous movie who've been studying and defending Godzilla the whole time, suddenly, for a short period of time, are told how to interact with him by our main protagonist, and although I appreciated the reference and its implications, I think the use of a certain weapon in the film shouldn't have been used in this film due to its context, being originally created in the first place to serve the message and themes of the original Gojira film. But despite all that, Godzilla King of the Monsters also did a lot of things right, especially for the fans of the franchise such as myself, and even improved on the issues I had with 2014 Godzilla, such as the handling of the human story and perspective from that film. Even though I liked the movie overall, one of the aspects that for the most part I couldn't help but find dull were the human characters of the film, except Dr. Serizawa and Bryan Cranston's character. They were uninteresting and only dragged down the runtime for me, especially due to most of it being dedicated to them in the first place, while Godzilla was being teased and only showed off for a larger amount of time in the third act of the movie. Godzilla King of the Monsters, fortunately for me, didn't suffer from that. I wasn't bored or irritated by any of its new roster of characters, and that was a very good thing because I could have easily have walked out of it as bummed as a lot of other reviewers on YouTube who saw this film, because unfortunately, like every other American attempt at these monster movies, the monsters themselves, or at least the battles that they fought against other kaiju, were cut short. Unlike the Japanese Godzilla films, it seems that Hollywood executives still don't realize that what we monster fans want to see is kaiju fighting kaiju for more than 5 minutes in each act of the whole damn movie. Despite improving on that issue, I still was a bit frustrated that the fights were cut short as soon as they were. In fact, King of the Monsters in terms of its structure is the same as the first one, only differences were the characters were way more bearable to watch, so as the runtime, not having that desperate feeling of skipping it entirely right to the kaiju action. The direction and cinematography, plus the majestic score and visuals, were much more energetic and full of life. Instead of teases, we got a bit more time to spend with the monsters, especially Godzilla and Ghidorah. Although I would have liked to see more of Mothra overall. And the final battle somehow was able to be even more epic than the one in Godzilla 2014. But yeah, overall, the amount of time you get to see Godzilla is more or less the same as in the 2014 version. A bit more, but that's all. And it's a bit disappointing because those moments were so freaking epic that I would have liked to see more of them, or at least have them be longer. Which is something that over Toho they know is what we gravitate towards the most. Yes, this film has problems. Stupid things happen in this movie, even though all Godzilla movies have them. Hell, all kaiju films do. But I still felt that the tone stayed consistent. The movie was a joy to watch till the very end. It was beautiful to look at, amazing to hear, experience, and it has been the most exciting of theater experiences I had in a while now. It's in the details that I found all the joy and wonder that I did with this one. Little moments like a certain character sacrificing his life for Godzilla, Mothra's beautiful metamorphosis scene, accompanied by his beautiful theme. King Ghidorah being weaker at the beginning compared to the end, due to his longer hibernation, just like Godzilla in the first movie, and Godzilla being stronger and faster since the Muto's confrontation, because of the 5-year time skip. It's little details like this that made me appreciate a lot more the film, and the way that the director Michael Dougherty and crew behind it respect the history and legacy of this old franchise, and the way they treat its iconic characters that as a fan myself, I can't ignore and help but cheer and applaud them for the amazing work they've done. It's not my favorite Godzilla film, unfortunately, because it could have been, and it came very close, but it doesn't take anything away from its overall quality and my personal enjoyment of it, being without any doubt the best American Godzilla film to date, but also one of the best Godzilla films to me in general. Now, if the ending is any indication, this movie proves exactly why Godzilla is the king of the monsters.